sin is not unovercomeable. That's what the cross shows us, right? Sin is not
Yeah.
unovercomeable. It's a thing to God, even if it's an obstacle, it's not the most important thing to him. It's that we
Hmm.
are. So that has to also be our stance again. And friends, it's not easy. It's not easy. God can
Hmm.
meet us in those moments if we just invite him in.
Welcome to Living the Grace Life. I'm your host, Jennifer Sakata, and you've made your way to the corner of real grace for your real life. We are at episode 51. I can hardly even believe it is our 1-year podcast anniversary. How we got here, only God could have done something like this. Today, we are going to be doing behind the scenes stories, lessons learned, and grace and how it surprised us along the way. I absolutely love the timing of our celebration because 2 weeks ago, it was my birthday. And anybody who knows me at all knows I am the queen of lengthening celebrations. It doesn't matter what they are, birthdays, anniversaries, rites of passage, or you made it to and from the grocery store within your budget. The more celebration, the better. So 1 year for a podcast, it's the perfect add-on. As promised, I have a very special guest. But first, before I introduce him, I want to take you back to January of 2024. I was at a writers' conference, and our host mentioned this podcasting friend of his who gifted the conference with 6 sessions for anyone who wanted to talk about podcasting. 2 summers before that, God planted a tiny seed of an idea at another conference of helping people bridge the gap that often exists between the theological idea of grace and are actually experiencing and living into it. But all the tech hurdles and not knowing where to begin with a podcast, not to mention that, to be honest, I barely even knew what a podcast was, all those things tuck that tiny seed away. But something caught in my spirit when I heard about those 6 appointments. And I left the main session to try and sign up for one. Whew, I was not expecting this part to come. But I stepped out and I went to sign up for one. And of course, there was no cell service. So I went back into the session to figure out what I missed. But as I sat there, I kept sensing this Holy Spirit nudge. Have you ever experienced that before? You know, when God's trying to get your attention about something and you're paying attention to something else and you're like, shh, yeah. And then finally, you're like, okay. So I crawled back over the people I had just crawled over to get back to my seat in search of a window outside of our session. I got a couple of cell phone bars and managed to sign up for one of the in fact, I think it was the last session. You'll hear more in our conversation to come. But that day, God introduced me to my guest and friend, Eric Nevins. After years of working in the financial industry, Eric launched his podcast, Halfway There, to tell the whole story about our spiritual journey. He quickly found the community podcasting is known for and started a group to bring Christian podcasters together. And since then, he's worked with podcasters, including this one, to launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts through the Christian Podcasters Association. Eric holds a Master's of Divinity from Denver Seminary in Denver, where he still gets to live. I'm a little bit jealous, just a teensy bit, where he lives with his wife, 4 kids, and a wonder dog. Eric, I have waited for a year to be able to say these words to you, but welcome to Living the Grace Life.
Jennifer, how exciting. First of all, that was a great introduction. Well done. But congratulations. 1 year on a podcast is like there seems to be an inflection point there somewhere. You're working out all the kinks, you're getting used to all the technology and all the different things and processes that you have to do. And it just gets easier. It gets more fun. It gets better from here. So congratulations. Great job.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Before we jump in, I have to know, when it comes to celebrations, are you milk it for all it's worth and lengthen it as long as possible without too much embarrassment? Or are you a one and done kind of guy when it comes to celebrations?
I always can use a good celebration as an excuse to do something, right? Go out to dinner or whatever. So
I love it.
I do like to celebrate certain things on the day,
Mm.
like anniversaries. Speaking of which, our anniversary is coming up here, 28 years.
Did you just say 28 years?
Yeah,
That's terrific.
it's a long
Oh
time.
my gosh. Well done. Were you 10 when you got married?
Yeah, well, not only double that. I was 20. We were 20.
Oh
We
my
were
gosh, you guys were babies.
yeah. Oh, I've got kids who are older than that now. I'm thinking, what were we doing? Like, why did our
Oh
parents
my
left? So
gosh.
yes, but we were 20. Weren't
Mm.
even old enough to drink. We literally got married on a Friday night,
Oh my gosh.
drove to South Dakota for a little honeymoon, and then came home, packed everything we'd ever owned, and moved to Chicago from Des Moines, Iowa. So it was a heck of a season, like a lot of change. But anyway, that's our story.
I love it. I am slightly jealous because you live where I lived more than 20 years ago. And every now and again, just get this like, when can we get back there? But I'll do my best to be happy for you to enjoy the incredible food that I know you will have on your anniversary. Introduce us a little bit. Why don't you tell us about the people who sit around your table every day, the people you are motivated to live the grace life with, and a wonder dog?
Okay, well,
Who are your
so
peeps?
all right. Well, so my wife is Jody. She, like I said, we've been married 28 years. She is a very intuitive, beautiful woman. She actually gets to work in rocket, because in Colorado we have all these rocket companies.
Oh, yeah.
And so she works for a company that does that and gets to hear about some of the cool stuff that we're doing. And she also is a spiritual practice. It's called Splankna. Have you ever heard of Splankna? Do you know what that
I
is?
think I have actually. Yeah.
They've got fancy words for it, but it has to do with figuring out trauma in your body. And
Okay.
she does that, and her intuition really serves her well in that.
Mm.
So that's great. Then we have 4 kids. We have a girl and 3 boys. Our girl just spent a year in Spain, came back this summer. That's where I got this lovely
That's
hat
where you
you're
got that
talking
hat,
about.
right?
Yes.
I love it.
I really just got the hat because I was like, I have to have a memento from Spain. I got it in Cordova, which was my favorite city we went to
Mm.
by far.
It works well for you. It's
Thank
good.
you. We'll see. I told you I might just make it my whole personality, but she's great. She's working. She's trying to figure out what's next in life. That sort of after college situation, right? Where you're like, oh, now I have to get a real job. What do I do?
Make money. Yeah.
She's in that season. Elijah is he's studying AI at local college here at MSU.
Wow. Okay.
And so he's 21. So he's same deal. And then we have 2 high schoolers who just started a week ago. And so one, Josiah he's 16, almost 17. And I can't believe how lucky we are. Like, you know, those moments when you feel like God really puts all the pieces together.
Absolutely.
Littleton Public Schools just created a thing called Epic Campus, and that's an acronym for something, but they really have a lot of hands-on things. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be in real estate, if you want to be in machinery or whatever, you can do it. So Josiah decided he wanted to be an engineer. He did a extra math class. He did Algebra 2 over the summer on his own via videos.
Oh my goodness.
It was incredible. So I'm so proud of him. He did all that so that he could get into the next math class, so that he could get into this program, so that he can eventually get into Colorado School of Mines, where he wants to go. But this program has everything. It's like CNC machines and 3D printers and things like that, which is the stuff he wants to do. I'm real proud of him where he's at right now. It's cool when your kids catch on to an ambition that's something they want to do.
How old
That's
did you
cool
say
thing.
he is?
He's 16 right now.
Okay, so our older son is 17, and I could have just switched out your son's name for my son's name, including that he's looking at School of Mines when it comes time for college. My husband is a grad from there, and so he just loves everything about it.
That would be really cool if they were at school together.
That'd be full circle.
That'd be cool. I love it. And then we have our youngest is 14, and he just started at Heritage at same high school, and he wants to be a pilot, but I'm still wondering if that's what he wants to do, because we've offered him some things to go, okay, let's take you in that direction. And he hasn't really jumped on it yet. So we'll see where he ends up.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
And the Wonder Dog, that's quite the description.
Wonder Dog is our little miniature schnauzer. She's a little black miniature schnauzer. I call her Wonder Dog because her name is Nisa, and which is a Hebrew word.
Yes.
Do you know the Hebrew word?
Hebrew was not my best
Me
in
either.
seminary. I'm much more of a Greek girl, and I couldn't tell you what the word Nisa
Okay.
means, but I do recognize it.
I looked it up. So when we got her, it's the short version of the story is we were going to get this puppy, and the puppy was very sick, and so we ended up not being able to get that puppy. So we're driving we were actually on a road trip. We'd gone to Florida. We were coming back. We stopped in Wichita, saw this puppy. We're like, we can't have this puppy. So then we're driving back to Colorado from Wichita on I-70 there.
Oh, yeah.
And
It goes forever.
Little kid just going, oh, they're sad. So Jody's frantically on Facebook Marketplace and on the internet, like, where can I get a puppy today? We ended up finding a breeder down in Colorado Springs, or not far from Colorado Springs. Stopped there on our way home and picked up she had 2 dogs, and I think somebody was looking at the other one. The other one was a little older, a little busier. And I was like, let's get the other one.
How about the other one?
Not quite as into things. And so we took her. I've got this cutest picture of Josiah with her. They're both so small. He was like 6. It's just amazing. But as we're leaving that year, for whatever reason, Colorado was just really, in the afternoons, were just filled with thunderstorms. Sometimes it's like that here. Not every year, though. And people tell me that's how it used to be. But that year was just like that. Every afternoon, thunderstorms rolling in. And so there's green pastures and the thunder clouds and rain. And it was amazing as we're driving away with this new dog. And there was a rainbow. I thought, oh, that's just beautiful, right? Like, that's really cool. So we're looking for names. You got to name the dog. What are we going to do? And so being a Bible nerd like I am, so I started looking for
I appreciate that about you.
Hebrew or Greek words. I'm like, what could we use? And so I started Googling, and I looked up rainbow, and it was Nessa, is with a different vowel there, right? And so I offered the kids that choice, or do you want to do Nisa, which is miracle? And they chose Nisa. And so that's her. We think of her as a wonder dog, a little miracle dog, because we were so sad that we didn't have a dog for the kids. And God provides in his own way. And she's 10 now. And so she's getting a little slower. We're noticing a few things, but boy, she's been a really great dog. She doesn't run. You know how some dogs run? Well,
she doesn't take off.
That's one of my favorite things about her.
I love that. And I love the name that you guys chose for her. What a beautiful name. We talk about the theological concept of grace going into our ordinary everyday experience. Okay, we've got the theological term and word, Nisa, which means miracle, which in everyday language means you might end up with a puppy you weren't expecting. So there you go.
Right.
I love it. Man, okay, Eric, let's go back to that conversation in January of 2024. When I am your last appointment of the day. And I'm curious what you remember of the conversation and what went through your mind as I was describing for you this maybe a little nebulous idea of real grace in your real life. What did you think?
Okay, so what I remember about that is, one, you're very well spoken, which is good. Not everybody is, right?
Thank you.
That's just a fact of life. It actually already had a message, which is really important. So some of the people that I've been talking to, and remember, I was talking to dozens of people. I was talking to as many as I could, and I had other appointments. And so some people want to start a podcast, and they have a vague idea what they want to do. And they're not exactly sure what they're trying to come up with, or even the goals that it's accomplishing for the audience, which is one of the most important parts. Saying real grace for real life, I could tell you're a preacher too. That's a great phrase. But that's a message. That's something you can do. So that was my first thought was, okay, you can run with that. You can really go a long way with that. And then the thing that sticks out to me the most was you said, I love having conversations. Remember that?
I do.
You're like, I love doing them. I love talking to people. I love drawing these things out. That's exactly who you have to be in order to start a podcast. You can run for a long time on those rails if you want to, because there's so many conversations. People used to ask me when I first started halfway there, aren't you afraid you're going to run out of people? What are you going to do? And I was like, 8 billion people on this planet. Are you kidding? I can never interview them all if I want. I go to events and I get overwhelmed, not by the people, but by the fact that I know that every single one of these people around me has a story. And they've got something going on in their lives, and I want to know what it is. Maybe I'm just nosy, but I don't think so. It's just my curiosity. I just want to know.
It's curiosity.
What's happening in your life? What's going on? How did you get to this Def Leppard concert that I'm at? Like, how'd you end up being the person wearing a Motley Crue hat and fishnets? I don't understand it, but okay, there's a story there somewhere,
But
right?
there's a story.
There's a
Yeah.
story. And that's where my mind
Mhm.
goes. When I heard your curiosity and your love for conversation, I went, yeah, you could totally do that. And here you are, a year later.
Yeah, I remember you asked me, do you envision more of a solo show or interview show? And at the time, I told you I was interested in both, but then you asked me a follow-up question and you said, where do you feel like you shine the most? And that's where I started to have a little bit more clarity. Yes, I love my solo episodes as well, but where I feel like I come alive the most is exactly this. It's conversation with people. And through this year, I still will do some solo episodes, but looking forward to season 2. Many, if not most of my episodes are geared up to being interviews, developing more of those conversations and being able to tell more of the story.
It's an art form. Not
Mhm.
everybody can pull off an interview. And I think
Mhm.
it's, if you're doing it well, you make it look easy. And then everybody goes, oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
Like Mark Maron was one of the guys I listened to a lot
Mm.
early on. And he makes it look easy, but it's not easy. It's not actually that easy. And you have to have kind of an innate curiosity that goes a little bit deeper, right? If you can just go a couple of layers deeper on things that most people don't think to do, that's what makes it interesting. And that's what
Mm.
people like Marion or other people do that is so good.
Yeah. You have worked with a lot of different podcasters over the years. You've coached and supported and come alongside many, but I'm curious, what is something you noticed about the way I approach my show that makes it unique?
So I'm going to start with that, back in that curiosity, because the reason we're curious, and I think this is true for you as it is for me, the reason we're curious is because we have this foundational belief that people are made in the image of God, right? That as we see people's stories and their experiences, if we have the eyes to see it, we can actually take a glimpse at God's work in the world. He hasn't stopped working because people still exist, right? He is working in people's lives. And so this is what I think I loved at the time, and I still do when I've listened to your episodes. You're able to pull that out because you're listening for it, right? You're able to pull out this grace thread in somebody's life from a terrible circumstance, a horrible situations that people experience. Grace comes in those moments, right? You have to look for it. So I think that's unique. I think it's not something that just anybody could pull off. And I think it's uniquely you. And that's what I really just love that you're doing. I think we need to hear it.
Mm, thank you. That's
Yeah, you're
really
welcome.
encouraging. Thank you for that. What would you say to that listener who has this idea that maybe God has planted, but they're hesitant to take the next step because they don't feel ready. They don't think they've got what it takes. Because I sat
Yeah.
right beside you saying those exact words. I don't know if I'm ready for this. So, what do you say to
Yeah.
that person who's now sitting where I was?
Yeah. So it's just like everything else in your life. You're never going to be ready, right? I got married when I was 20. I was not ready for that.
I can't, I'm still processing that
I
one, Eric.
think I would have been ready when I was 40. You're never ready to go to college. You're never ready to get married or get a
Mm-hmm.
job or whatever. Life doesn't actually work that way. I heard a quote: confidence comes from experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really true. This is why I tell you to do it for a year, right? Do it for a year. Don't look at your numbers. Just do the podcast, create the show that you want to
Yeah.
create. Then you can then start to look at it and go, okay, what can I tweak? What other strategies can I use to get it out there? But you've got the process down then. You're never going to be ready. You're
Mm-hmm.
never, you might need some help. Let me just put that. Need some
Mm-hmm.
help. So if you want some help to figure out the tech and do all that sort of thing, some people don't always have that message ironed out.
Yeah.
So if you haven't figured out your message yet, but you got a kernel of an idea, that's the kind of thing that I like to help with and pull out. Okay, let's make this into something. We'll put it into a format, which is something I talk about
Mm-hmm.
with almost everybody. I help this person do that so they can experience this. But once you learn that and have that down, you can really craft a show that works for your audience. It builds an audience. You never know who you're helping, and you never know what the results are going to be.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good word. And it reminds me too of, I'm sure you heard this in seminary, that whether you have 10 people or you have 1,000 people, those are 10 people or 1,000 people who are coming into contact with the creator of the universe through the story that you're telling.
100%.
Oh, that's really good. Well, before we shift gears to talk a little bit more about where you've seen God's grace at work in your life, I thought we might give a little shout out to our friend Neil Matthews over at Other People's Shoes. He always has this quiz at the end of a show, and it's like high pressure. You have to answer these 6 questions in 60 seconds or less, and then the buzzer goes off.
I don't think he had the buzzer when I did it, but
Okay.
Neil made fun of me for my shoes. He was like, "What shoes are you wearing?" And I was like, "I'm wearing Clark's." He goes, "Oh, I'm so disappointed." I was like, "Really?"
It's because you're in Colorado.
They're just standard shoes. What did you want? So I started buying Adidas shoes, and he likes those better.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Shout out to our friend Neil, because we're going to do a quick speed round of a few questions. We're going to do grace in the moment, and just tell me what comes off the top of your head.
Okay.
All right? I don't have a buzzer or a timer, so you're not under any time constraints, because I can't handle that stress myself. So I will
Right?
put that on you. All right, first, coffee or tea or something else for editing days?
Oh, coffee for sure. I have a little AeroPress that I like to use to make my
Oh,
coffee.
fancy.
But I have gotten into London fogs in the afternoon, which is Earl Grey tea as a latte.
Okay.
It's delicious.
A London fog.
Get one at Starbucks is great.
Okay. I'm going to put that on my list. I'll let you know how it goes at our next CPA Gold meeting. First podcast you ever listened to?
I'll have to go back. Oh, man. I don't know exactly which one it was, but what I'll tell you is I can remember in, let's say, 2010, listening to Pat Flynn's podcast.
What was it about?
I have no idea. This whole thing is all my business. So it was probably that. I remember listening to Michael Hyatt pretty early. And then all of those guys led me to Cliff Ravenscraft very early as well, who I worked with as one of my coaches, which was awesome. Amy Porterfield is in that same camp. One thing that I noticed was they all had one principle about how this works. And that principle was give first and then make your ask. And I thought that's really a Christian idea, right? And it turns out many of them are Christians. Not all of them, but many of them. Yeah. Which I thought was interesting. But that idea of just being of service, I just loved. And it was really part of what drew me into podcasting as well.
How about your favorite oops moment when interviewing or recording?
Oh, man. That's a good question. I'm trying to think of anything good that's come out of screwed up. Oh, man. I've interviewed so many people. Okay, so here's a good one. I interviewed James Bryan Smith. And for some reason, because he's got 3 names, I can never quite get his name right.
Yes,
I had to look it up.
His book, the last one.
Yes, The Good and Beautiful You.
Yes.
I think was that one. And it was so perfect for where I am, what I was doing. But I really screwed up my introduction.
Oh, no.
So what happened is I don't think I got the booking didn't have the actual information. It didn't have anything about him. And so I was going by, I think he's an author and he's a...
My gosh, I think he's an author. He'd already written 3 books before that one.
I thought he was a pastor. And he was like, I'm a teacher at Friends University. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. So I had to, and I couldn't, he handled it so well that I couldn't edit it out because I used it to springboard into the next question, which is, okay, good hosting skills, but also,
hey, that's good.
Now I have to leave my mistake in there. So that's the one that stands out to me as a mistake that I made, but it turned out okay. It was all right. That was one of my favorite conversations I've ever done.
It sounds like it was definitely clothed in grace, both on your side and on his, because you could have let that derail you.
I thought because all the information was there that maybe he was a diva or something. I was a little nervous. So maybe that affected me. He wasn't. He was totally great.
If grace were a color, what color would it be for you right now?
First color that comes to mind is green, like growth, and I think it's green. Even though my yard is not green because...
Oh, you live in Colorado and it's August.
We have no rain, yeah. But I like green things, and I think that's one of my favorite colors for that. So it allows for growth. It speaks of growth.
If you were to use an emoji to describe my podcast, Living the Grace Life, what would it be? And be honest.
Oh, man. There's so many options. I'll give you a thumbs up, which is generic.
Okay, good.
Maybe a smiley face, super smiley face.
All right. Now, you asked me this question a year ago, and now I'm going to turn the tables a little bit, and I am going to ask this question of you. A year ago, you asked me, where do you want your podcast to be in a year? In one word or a short phrase, where do you hope my listeners are a year from now, having listened to Living the Grace Life?
I'm going to say more trusting.
Mm.
One of the reasons we don't rely on grace is because we don't trust God.
Yeah.
We don't. It's hard to see Him there unless, like we said earlier, we've developed the eyes to see that. I hope that as your listeners hear the stories that you bring out, hear the ways, because it's actually instructive. This is one of the reasons when I started my show, I started an interview podcast. I love conversations. And so I started the show so that I could demonstrate how the spiritual journey goes with the questions that I ask, with the things that I pull out. And so I think you do something very similar with grace, demonstrating how grace is by asking your questions. And sometimes you'll comment, hey, I'm asking this because this is a theological reality that I want to know about. It's great. I love that. I think speaking directly to your audience is also really a cool way to go. Say, hey friends, did you catch that? I do that a lot.
Yeah.
But as you do those kinds of things, I think you're teaching through conversation, and people pick it up. It builds up and it gets into their psyche and their kind of being. And I think that's great.
I love that word, trust. Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you. All right, game is over. You've made it. There's no pass or fail, just hopefully a little bit of fun with not too much sweating.
That's good.
Oh, man. As you know, my episodes have circled around the grace of belonging and trust, as you just mentioned, forgiveness, rest, and inviting God's presence into our ordinary everyday. So as you think about where you are right now, which of those themes resonates for you? The belonging, trust, forgiveness, rest, God's presence.
Yeah, I think the one that stands out to me is God's presence, particularly every day. The last season, several years, has been pretty hard for me and my family for a variety of reasons, some of which I talked about, some of which I haven't. And I'm just starting to realize over the last 6 or 8 months just how hard I kind of had made my heart a little bit, being upset with certain things that happens in churches and all kinds of things that were really tough for me. And I had a friend who is on his own journey, as we all are, and he invited me to do this thing called Exodus 90. It's like Lent on steroids. So we started meeting, and to be honest, I did not. Some of the practices, like you're supposed to take cold showers every day.
Oh my goodness. Why in the world would you choose willingly to do that?
That's what I said. I was like, no, I don't think so. I will do some of the other ones.
Yeah,
like
thanks.
stay from alcohol and go to the gym, whatever, and various things like that, and no sugar, stuff like that. And that was fine. But so it was like just this really aesthetic process, right? And I just resisted the whole time. I'm sure I was a downer to my friends, but I showed up and we were talking, and the few practices that I was like, okay, I'm willing to do this, I can do this, turned out to be really good. But really what helped the most was the community, right? So showing up every week saying, all right, Eric, how are you? What's going on? And I would say, oh, whatever, this is happening. And they would encourage me and they would remind me why community is important. And so through that and through a number of other kind of situations, I could tell that I'm becoming a little more open to God's presence in every day than perhaps I have been in the last couple of years after some hard stuff.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And it actually does lead me into our next season here at Living the Grace Life. We are talking about when grace is hard to come by. So would you be willing either to say more about that or talk with us about when has grace been hard for you to come by and what does it look like for you to begin the journey there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'm going to share with you a story. So one of those hard things that's happened over the last several years was we had a school shooting at my kid's school. Have I told you the
Mm.
story?
No, but I know that's part of the history of living in Littleton.
Well, right. So like Columbine happened in '99. There was one at Arapahoe High School, which is
Mm.
nearby. And we had one at STEM when my kids were there. All three of my boys were there.
Ooh.
And this is in 2019. So I can't, my poor kids. So they had that, and the school year ended about 3 weeks early.
Ooh.
And then the next year we had COVID. And so, my goodness, it's just a tough, they had a tough couple of years there. So we were fortunate. Some of these events have lots and lots of people dead. There's only one person who died. His name was Kendrick Castillo. His parents were believers. I haven't heard any updates on them. They've named a street nearby for him, for Kendrick. That was really tough. Like I said to
Yeah.
somebody recently, there's nothing quite like your second grader showing you the desk that he was hiding under.
Yeah.
There's a shooting. We were so panicking. And I know my wife struggled with it a lot more. Like, hey God, what's up, man? What's going on? I think my struggle was much more like, where are the parents? What's going on? What's happening? One of the shooters was a trans student. And so here's where I came down on this. So looking for grace, right?
Mm.
What do I do here? And when I was praying about this, God, I'm mad. And my kids shouldn't have to experience this, whether it was brought to mind or God brought it to mind. I just thought about the idea of what Jesus said, which is love your enemies, right? Love your enemies. Who could be more my enemy than a trans school shooter at my kid's school? Like politically, we're probably completely opposite.
Yeah.
Religiously, and you're hurting my kids. Who could be more my enemy than that? Not that I'm hateful at all. That's what I was feeling.
Yeah.
And so I felt that was really a call from the Lord to love my enemies. And so I spent a period of time just praying for that person. And I think they ended up being sentenced. I don't know how long they got. I don't remember. It wasn't really in the news, and I didn't really want to follow it. But that's tough. What a amazing, unbelievable situation. Like, you just never should have to go through that. I think that was an example of where the Lord led me to a place of value, right? Every person's made in God's image. Every person is loved by him. Can only lead me to that space of loving my enemies or a perceived enemy. And even if from afar, like I didn't do anything about it really. I thought about, can I send a letter, or can I somehow get in contact with a mom and just say, hey, I'm praying for you or whatever. I don't know. I don't even know if that would do anything. I didn't do any of those things, but I did pray for them, and I trust God to take it from there.
Yeah, he fills in the rest. And one of the things I
Yeah.
especially appreciate about what you said is, in our experience, we have a tendency to define everyone as the people that we get along with. We think like them, we look like them, we sound like them. That's our idea of everyone. But there's nothing biblically accurate about that.
No.
And going back to the languages that we both studied, that I'm not especially great at, like I said, but I do know this, that when Jesus says, love your enemies, and when he talks about God's love for everyone, there's no loophole.
Right.
There isn't any subset of people, however you or I might define ourselves or them. There is no exception clause. We are called to love all of our enemies.
That's right. That's right. And that's one of the reasons why I think some of the problems that I feel with people who have made some of the political things going on their religion, it's one of the problems I have with it, because you cannot follow Christ and defeat your enemies politically. I don't think. You just can't. That's not how it works. Jesus, if we were his enemies, what did he do? He laid down his life for us. That's a very different example, and we're called to follow it. And it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. I know it's hard. And I know that many of us, we have beliefs that are shaped by all kinds of things, but that's the one that has to be predominant.
That's the one that has to rise to the surface. And ultimately, that is taking us back to what this show is all about. Ordinary, everyday grace that proclaims that I don't deserve it any more than the person over there that I'm not too fond of deserves it. It puts all of us on the level playing field, where God says, that one over there that you don't like so much, I do. And I want to work in you. You don't have to like them, but I'm asking you to love me and to give me your thoughts about who you think they are, and let me give you an image of who I know they are.
I love that. I'm trying also to take the language of deserve out of my
Yes.
vocabulary, because you're right. Grace is, it's not a thing that you've earned, but I'm not sure love works like that. Like the moment you add deserve to love, you got something completely different.
Yeah.
So it has to be I'm not loved in spite of my sin by God. I am loved by God. Sin is not unovercomable. That's what the cross shows us, right? Sin is not
Yeah.
unovercomable. It's a thing to God, even if it's an obstacle, it's not the most important thing to him. It's that we are. So that has to also be our stance again. And friends, it's not easy. It's not easy. I get it. There are so many things where I feel like I probably just have to let some grudges go, and probably my life will be better for it. But it is hard. It can be hard. God can meet us in those moments if we just invite him in.
I think that might be my new expanding definition of grace, that sin is, how did you put it? Sin is not unovercomeable.
Yeah.
I like that. Sin is not unovercomeable.
I don't know what your tradition is like, but in mine, sin was the big deal. It was like always the thing, right? We always had to go. And I did borrow this from, I think, Dallas Willard or somebody, but oftentimes we would start the gospel in Genesis 3, right? Like where sin shows up, and then we'd be like,
James Bryan Smith talks about that in his book too.
He was also a disciple of Dallas Willard.
Yes. Yep.
He told me some stories.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to that episode.
Go check it out. But that whole thing, right? No, actually he created people good, and there's a love for that. Even, I hope this doesn't make me a heretic, but I'll share this with you. Were you ever told God can't stand to be around sin and he's so holy that he can't?
I've been thinking about that a lot. And I saw you put that on your intake form, a little bit of background the scenes, right? When we do an interview, we have a series of questions we have our guests answer. And you brought that up, and I was wondering how we might get there. So let's go there.
There you go. So I think that, like, I was taught that God can't be around sin and he can't stand it. People go to Genesis and they say, look, he had to kick them out of the garden. And then he sends them on their way, and he's still walking with them. Like, you read the next few stories and God is still there talking to the people. For me, it's like, that's just evidence that, yeah, sin's a thing. I never want to minimize it. I don't. Like, it's not great when somebody shoots up your kid's school. That's terrible.
Jesus, we both would agree, Jesus died for that. It was significant enough for it to cost God's son's life.
So I don't want to minimize it, but I also want to have a posture of, for my own self and for the way I see other people, sin is not the truest thing about you. The truest thing about, you're made in God's image and you're loved by him, and therefore you must be loved by me.
Eric, that is so consistent with the way I want to continue talking about grace. Yes, it is unmerited favor. It is pardon, all of those things. But before it's any of that, grace is about belonging. It's about God's welcome. We can't move toward him or another without his movement toward us first. So I love that.
Love it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great place for us to land. If you are even considering the idea of a podcast, run to Eric Nevins. But Eric, how can people find you?
I love that. Thank you for your kind words, first of all. And I want to say, Jennifer, great job. You're a great example of, if you have a message and you got some desire and some will to get through the hard parts, you can start a podcast that I believe is changing lives, that you're going to change people's lives. I say, look, in the 19th century, the church sent missionaries around the world, and we can see the fruit of that in various parts of the world, Africa and Asia, South America. The church is flourishing far more than here in the United States, right? That's
true.
Amazing. I think in the 21st century, the gospel goes out through content. It goes out through shows like yours. It goes out through shows like mine. It goes out through all the shows in Christian Podcasters Association. And if you're a disciple maker or you're an evangelist, it's really good for you. If you have the gift of gab, that'll work, right? But if you have gifts
That's
that
helpful.
maybe are not being used in your local church, podcasting is a great medium for you. I'm happy to help you out with that. And I would like to start maybe a group to go through some of the things we did and do it in 6 weeks, starting sometime in middle to late September. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can reach out to me. There's 2 places, which I know is the exact wrong thing as a pro. I know not to do that, but I'm going to give them to you. My website is ericnevins.com. And so there's a contact page there. You can just send me a form and say, hey, I'm interested in starting my podcast. Can you help me? Or you can go to ChristianPodcastersAssociation.com, and the same deal. There's all that stuff there. You can find me on Facebook or Twitter, wherever you look, I'm there.
Yeah, you're pretty easy to find, but I'll make sure to put those links in the notes to make it even that little bit easier. Eric, I'm a words girl, but I'm beyond words, truly, with gratitude for the ways that you have cheered me on, encouraged me, challenged me, pushed me, and helped me to push the go button for a launch date. And I didn't share this part of the story, but do you remember that I actually had 3 launch dates before the last one finally took 3? Oh my gosh, that first meeting with you, you said, okay, set a date. And I'm like, wait, you mean like a launch date?
Yeah.
And we settled on St. Patrick's Day. It's memorable. March 17th. Came and went. I set another date, the end of June. It was my 17-year-old's birthday. That wasn't happening. And then we come to September, first week of September. 3rd time's a charm.
It took me 2 years to start my first podcast. It's taken me 3 years to get going on this new show that I want to do, which I think I told you a little bit about. Okay, here's the thing. I'm practicing what I preach. I set a date, and that date is like next week. I know how to do all the other stuff, but do I have guests booked every day next week? No, I don't. I've asked a ton of people, and I'm like, oh, I got to work on that this week and try to get some people. And I've got a bunch of yeses, and there's a whole bunch of stuff I got to do, but I practice what I preach. I want to do a show. So just to help fill you guys in, so you know what we're talking about. I'm starting a show that's a daily show, and I'm breaking a whole bunch of rules, and it's going to be fun. I'm going to interview. It's not going to be specifically Christian, which I think I'm excited about, because there's a whole bunch of people that are curious about in the world that I want to find out about.
I love that.
Joe Elliott from Def Leppard. I'm a hairband guy, so I want to know about that. Guys just want an excuse to be able to talk to Bon Jovi or whoever. So that's what I'm starting, and it's going to be live streamed. The coolest part about it is I'm going to take my time to ask some questions. I'm going to ask about their bio. We'll talk about their work. So if they're a producer or a author or whatever they are, we'll talk about their work. But then there'll be a section where I'm going to take questions from the audience, because it's going to be live streamed. So you can ask a question right on Facebook or right on YouTube, and I'll be able to see it and ask that of our guest and have them answer it, which risky, man.
It is. It's like passing the microphone around for announcements in church. You never know.
Never. Yeah.
I think it's going to be great, Eric.
But I think it'll be fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
What I like to do, and it gets to satisfy my curiosity.
I can't wait to hear it, honestly. I think it's something unique and different. And the fact that you're curious, going back to earlier in our conversation, you're voicing a curiosity that other people have, but they don't necessarily have the platform or the opportunity.
I'm practicing what I preach. If you want to learn it, hit me up, and I'm happy to get you in the class, and we'll do it.
That's great. I'll leave all the information in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here, Eric. This has been an absolute gift of a space to me, and I think to all of our listeners today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, and keep up the great work.
And to you, my listener, thank you for making this first year of living the grace life more than I could ever have imagined. We're just getting started. And season 2 is for those moments when grace feels impossibly hard to come by. Up next week, our first episode of season 2 is an absolute delight of a woman of God, Carol McLeod, author of one of my new favorite books, Today is a Verb. Maybe you've heard parts of Carol's story, from multiple miscarriages and loss to insight about forgiveness. Come listen to this basketball-loving mom who shows us how to today and chase grace. As always, you can find me at jennifersakata.com, on Instagram at jennifersakata, on Facebook at jennifersakata.author, or on YouTube at Jennifer Sakata. Until next time, remember to live the grace life generously, friend. Grace for you, grace for them.